Colonization brought settlers to this land that saw themselves as having a completely different relationship with the environment. As these maps of Upper Canada or Ontario show, surveyors prepared the region for European settlement by imposing a grid on the land that transformed the landscape into a checkerboard of townships. This checkerboard ignored Indigenous territories and treaties, as well as the natural and cultural landscape that already existed. Locally, surveyors used Lake Ontario as a baseline, from which perpendicular lines penetrated the land to create the township of East Flamborough, while Governor's Road was used to draw out both West Flamborough and Beverly townships. It's because of these different baselines that while East Flamborough is a rectangle, West Flamborough is shaped like a triangle. Concessions, or plots of land conceded by the Crown, were divided up into 100-acre grants of land that ran parallel to these baselines at regular intervals. The dividing line between the townships of East and West Flamborough would become known as the Guelph-Hamilton Stone Road. The different baselines ensured that the concessions between the two townships would not connect seamlessly. When Ebenezer Griffin had plans drawn up for the village of Waterdown in 1830, a new grid was inserted roughly between Dundas Street and Concession 4, renamed Parkside Drive following the creation of Memorial Park in 1949. This topographic map from 1909 shows the original grid clearly. Many of the colonial settlements like Waterdown were linked together by a network of roads that largely occupied the footprints of ancient Indigenous pathways. Transportation between these communities made use of horses, as well as people walking on foot, so roads were either dirt or gravel. Connections between Waterdown, Dundas, and Hamilton navigated the escarpment using Waterdown Road, the Waterdown-Hamilton Road, now called Snake Road, and Old Guelph Road, all of which were ancient Indigenous pathways through the land, carving their way along its natural features. The 19th century brought advances in technology that would further entrench the grid that underlined European settlement patterns in the land, as machines capable of altering the landscape were being developed. This ability to alter the landscape, coupled with the settlers' relationship with the land, including the concept of ownership, came to a head with the invention of the automobile. This photo, dated 1910, shows Dr. Robert Roy McClenahan and his son Harold at their home at 62 Mill Street North. The two are sitting in the first automobile to be owned in the village of Waterdown. It's an extraordinary image because it marks the beginning of an era that would dramatically and irrevocably alter the way in which the village and the country would impose its growth and development onto this land. A dramatic local example of this would be the Clappison's Cut. There has been a route to the top of the escarpment here for some time, including via the winding old Guelph Road up to the hamlet of Clappison's Corners. In this rare photograph, taken in 1890, you can look out over the winding old Guelph Road toward Dundas and Hamilton. Today, Highway 6 runs right through this picture. In 1916, the Ontario Department of Highways was created to transform the dirt and gravel roads of the province into the network needed to accommodate the automobile. The Guelph-Hamilton Stone Road was taken over by the province and rechristened in asphalt as the King's Highway No. 6. This new highway would replace West Flamborough's Brock Road as the main north-south roadway through the region. It was quickly decided by provincial authorities that the meandering Old Guelph Road would have to go, and Highway 6 would be extended south, following the town line between East and West Flamborough to the lakeshore. In order to facilitate this, the escarpment would be blasted out of the way in 1922, creating what is now known as the Clappison Cut. These remarkable pictures speak to the violent creation of the opening, as well as the ramp created from rubble that extends down toward the lake. a small fragment of the old Guelph Road remains. People park here to hike along the escarpment. There's a nearby tunnel that leads to the other side of the highway and the remains of an old homestead nestled along the rock wall. Nearby, the Queen Elizabeth Way, or QEW, was opened by King George VI and Queen Elizabeth in 1939, connecting Toronto to the American border at Niagara. By 1963, the first phase of Highway 403 would connect Highway 6 directly to the QEW. Within 60 years of its arrival in Waterdown, the automobile had changed the landscape and our experience of it beyond recognition. The Clappison Cut remains as a monument to this fact.